Hi, welcome to Truth of Tal and Isaac. I'm Tal, this is Isaac, and you're on The Truth. Episode number 17. As we head into the All-Star break, we're going to talk about the Pistons, give a bit of a mid-season analysis. Lots of big trade rumors in the NFL. We're going to spend a fair amount of time talking about Russell Wilson and Deshaun Watson. Off the top, I got a couple things. Michigan, tough loss to Illinois last night. Thoughts on that, Isaac?
I worked, so I missed the first half. And when I came home, they were down like 15. So I didn't even, I have no thoughts. I didn't watch anything. I watched about 30 seconds, and it was not a good 30 seconds.
Yeah, I didn't have time to look at any analysis today on it. But listen, they're 18, 19-year-old kids. They're going to have a bad game. Hopefully it doesn't happen in the first couple rounds of the tournament.
Hope it doesn't happen again in March. So
yeah. Leading into March Madness, Wolverines are still tiered to be a number one seed, which will be cool.
Yeah.
Lots of NBA trade rumors out there. Lowry, Drummond, JJ Redick, Wayne Ellington's lighting it up tonight against the G League Toronto Raptors. It's interesting. Trades are always fun, and especially when they involve big guys.
There's going to be some trades.
For sure.
Like teams like I think Philly's going to make a move to try to put them ahead of Brooklyn. I think Miami's going to make a move. I think the Clippers are probably going to make a move. Wouldn't be surprised if Utah buys because they are currently the 1 seed in the West. So even Portland maybe, but Portland did a lot of stuff in the offseason. But there'll be some movement.
I think what is happening is with Anthony Davis injured, people are realizing that this is just not necessarily a Lakers
it's a Lakers repeat.
But listen, that puts a little question mark next to Anthony Davis, because if Anthony Davis doesn't play, the Lakers maybe win the first round series, and that's it.
Depending on who they play, I think LeBron can lead that team. I think it's a well-built team, and I think LeBron has shown in the past, right? Like, this team is so much worse than
the
one of those
2016 Cleveland Cavaliers.
One of the Cleveland teams that got swept.
Yeah. Anyway, trade rumors are fun, and those will be happening a lot in the next couple weeks. So JJ Watt to the Cardinals, which is actually huge, and I know you wanted to talk about JJ a little bit. Thoughts on that?
This will be like main topics today. Watson, Wilson, we'll do that in a minute, and then we're going to end with the Pistons, talk about the Pistons for a bit. So this is like a mini main topic, JJ Watt. I'm shocked. I really did not think, Arizona was not one of the teams that was being talked about. I didn't hear anyone say Arizona. Dad, did you?
In my extensive analysis on this topic,
research,
which means asking you, no, didn't see anything, didn't hear anything about it. Bill Simmons, who's my source for sports, didn't talk about it either. So that was a surprise.
So as Lions fans who hate the Packers, I love it.
Oh, yeah, for sure. We did not want to face J.J. Watt because he would just smush Jared Goff.
Well, and the Packers team is already awesome, and I didn't want them to add more talent.
Yeah. You saw the picture a few years ago when who's the Cardinals quarterback?
Murray
and J.J. Watt next to each other?
So I'm going to spend a minute on Murray.
What's that?
I'm going to spend a minute on the Cardinals and Murray.
Okay.
So I don't love Kyler Murray. I don't hate him. I just think, here's my comparison. Kyler Murray is the Jason Tatum of the NFL. Why are you laughing? It's dead on.
It's not bad.
No, it's great. Yeah. That's true. Look, very, very skilled, very young, lots of hype, lots of attention. But are they winning anything in the near future?
Yeah, the big difference between Murray and Tatum is Tatum has an NBA body, whereas Kyler Murray buys his pants at Baby Gap.
Okay, because he's like, what,
he's
6
like
feet tall?
5'6". Come on, he's little.
So, I don't know, was that the best decision for Watt? To win? No. To get money? Yeah. The best, Tampa or KC. I think KC doesn't have the salary to make it work, but he wanted to make $15 million a year.
Yeah.
If he wanted to make $5 million or $10 million, which he totally could have.
I mean, they do have some other players on D too, right?
They'll be a good team, and that division is the most stacked in football because they have 4 teams that are all contending, right? The Rams can win that division, and no one will be surprised. Mm-hmm. The Seahawks can win that division.
Well, Russell Wilson aside.
Yeah, let's say they have Russell.
Yeah.
No one will be surprised. The Cardinals can now win the division, and if Murray takes a big step up, which I actually think he will, then they have a shot. And San Francisco, if they get a quarterback...
Last year, they were in the Super Bowl with Garoppolo throwing about 3 pass plays.
If they get a quarterback...
was very thin.
Then they can win that division. So that division is great. I look forward to watching Watt. I hope he succeeds. I'm glad,
good dude. Did so much for Houston.
Yeah. I'm glad him and Hopkins got out of that terrible situation. And
I guess, that's relevant as well, right? If Hopkins was his boy and he said, listen, play over here, talks about the organization. Huge.
So is Deshaun Watson going to just run 2 quarterback set with Kyler Murray and Deshaun Watson now? Some speed? Right? Right? All the Houston guys are leaving, going to Arizona. Like, get Watson. Yeah. So, with that, let's go into Deshaun. Let's start with Deshaun Watson.
Okay.
So, we're going to talk about if he's going to be traded, which I think he will be. Do you agree?
He will be traded. Yeah. Houston does not have a choice right now.
They say, no, we're not answering calls. They have to. Because it's going to get... It can get really ugly.
It sounds like it's already pretty ugly in Houston, so they might as well just get whatever they can. And listen... I would assume that the trade value for Watson is super high, right? Like I wrote down...
Well, yeah, we'll get into that.
3 first-rounders plus.
So, right? Yeah, that's what I have. So
maybe 4.
I think Watson's going to get traded. I have the top 5 teams in this order. Do you have 5 in any kind of order?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I have 6.
Okay. So I'm
smarter than you.
Okay, so I'll do 1 to 5. So this is super wide open. So my most likely team, and I don't even think it's likely, I'd rather take the field. You can back up from the mic there, big fella. I don't think it's the most likely. I'd rather take the field. But if I had to pick one team, it's the Jets.
Okay.
I don't get it, but Watson has kind of said he really likes Salah, or however you say his name, and he wants to go to the Jets, which I don't get unless they make huge moves. So I have the Jets 1, the Panthers I have 2, I have the Dolphins 3, basically tied with Carolina. Then I have San Francisco, and then I have Denver. So those are my 5.
Okay, actually I have the Bears as the number 1 pick, which is a little bit funny. The Bears are not known for making spectacular decisions, and they traded up to pick Mitchell Trubisky, and they are still trying to make amends for that. So I think they're a decent possibility. And actually, they're my number 1 pick. Then I've got the Jets. Then I've got Miami. Then I have Carolina, New England, and actually I have San Fran. I threw in as a 6 just because I thought that was a possibility as well. But let me just talk about Chicago for a minute.
Yeah, because I don't have much to say about Chicago yet.
So they really need somebody. They haven't had a quarterback since Jim McMahon that is any good.
Jay Cutler.
He was loved.
Yeah.
You mentioned Jay Cutler's name to anybody from Chicago, and they just want to punch it. They hated Jay Cutler. But they've got some assets, and they've got some guys that have some big money. And I wrote down Khalil Mack.
You think they're going to move Mack?
I think they're going to move Mack. It makes it easier for Houston to accept trading away Watson if they get a star like Mack. Now, Mack has, obviously 3 years ago, he was unbelievable. Last couple of years, he wasn't great, but he's still a big name, and I think Houston somehow needs to save face. So that's why I picked Chicago. You're the Jets first, right?
I'll go Jets.
Okay.
So why would Watson want to go to the Jets? Again, I don't really understand, but New York's a big media market. He might want that, right? Houston Texans is not even the Rockets have been contending in Houston for the past bunch of years. The Astros. The Texans are not the fan favorite in Houston. So he wants to get a big media market like New York.
Sure.
And I know it's the second best football team in New York, but it's still a football team in New York.
Oh, you're still the Big Apple. It's a big deal. Lots of clubs, lots of places to go, lots of advertising opportunities, marketing opportunities.
So I think Watson is 24. Is that right?
I think he's 25.
Is he 25? Okay, so he's 25. He still has a lot of time left, and we'll talk about trade value.
So I think he is a top 5 player in the NFL.
Player? He's top 5 quarterback.
Well, and because, again, we've talked about this many times, because the NFL is such a quarterback-driven league, I'll call it the 5 most
valuable,
impactful players in the league. And how often does that come up? You look back at some of the biggest trades in NFL history. The comparison here, I wrote down the Herschel Walker trade.
That was probably the biggest, right?
Yeah. In terms of people, they traded, essentially Minnesota traded like everything. They traded 8 draft picks to Dallas. Herschel Walker had 3 average seasons in Minnesota, and the draft capital from that trade helped propel Dallas to 3 Super Bowls.
Yeah, so I think, so this is the value I've written down for the Jets. So they have the 2nd overall pick.
Yep.
So you're trading. So keep in mind, these are going to sound ridiculous. Matthew Stafford, an aging quarterback who has not played great the past couple of years, who we still love, went to LA for a first, a third, and Jared Goff, who's also like 26 or something. Like, he's not very old, right?
2 firsts.
Yes, you're right. Yes, you're right. 2 firsts. So the thing is, like, the Jets are going to have, any team is going to have to give up so much. So I have the Jets 2nd overall. So Zach Wilson, Penei Sewell, whoever you want at 2nd. 2 future firsts. And a 2nd round pick.
And Sam Darnold?
And Sam Darnold. Yeah, because they would be moving. Yeah, and Sam Darnold.
Yeah, because you assume the 2nd overall pick, Sam Darnold, and 2 more firsts?
Yeah.
Whew. That's big.
I think any team that wants Watson, unless something weird goes down, because Watson has a no-trade clause, right?
Yeah.
Unless he changes his mind and says, I want to go to Miami, and then Houston gets a lesser offer from Miami, like, I have no idea how it's going to go down, but whoever gets him is going to have to give up so much.
If they get anything close to that, then I give Houston a lot of credit, because they have been awful. Do we want to talk about Houston and Jack Easterby now, or?
Yeah, you can.
Okay, so I've been hearing about this guy for a little while. Jack Easterby, I think is his name.
Context. Who's that?
So he's the executive vice president of the Houston Texans. A guy who was like, I think the New England Patriots team chaplain. Is that right? So he's like a religious right-wing guy. Like, he was a pastor. Great, good for you, Pastor Easterby. But now he has become buddies with the owner, and he is just making a mess of the entire organization. And there's lots of chatter, and I've been hearing about this for the last year or so. He traded DeAndre Hopkins for a 2nd-round pick.
And David Johnson.
And David Johnson, who was washed up.
Yeah.
So not a great football decision. So I think that's the problem. And one of the nice things about Houston being a mess is the Lions front office and the Jets front office, they're not the worst in the league. Houston's is the worst in the league. So I'm blaming this whole mess on Easterby.
Okay.
Did you hear some of that?
Yeah, like any sports podcast you listen to, brings up this guy and they just shred him because...
Well, we're the truth.
The truth. He has no idea what he's doing. Like, he's not a football guy. And it's like when you have non-football or basketball or baseball or hockey guys running your... Enough with the breathing. That loud. Come on, man. If you have a guy like that running your team, it's not going to go well. It's not going to go well. They got to know the game. And he doesn't. So I think they're going to have to give in. Houston's going to have to give in. So I'll go. So you said the Bears. What are the Bears giving up? Mac and what?
Mac, the contract of Foles, just because they need to move some money. Mm-hmm. 3 first-round picks. And then maybe even a 3 first rounds and a 2nd round as well.
Yeah.
Lots of capital.
So my next team, I have the Panthers. Now, this is an interesting one because there's been a lot of chatter about the Panthers clearing up cap space to get a Wilson or a Watson. So the Panthers, the pro with the Texans is they trade him out of conference. So they will never play. Rarely will they play each other. So I think the Texans don't want to play a pissed off Watson, especially with a decent team. So the Carolina is a really good young core to work with, right? With McCaffrey healthy. And Bridgewater is interesting because I think he actually still has some value. Similar to Jared Goff, actually.
Okay.
Teddy Bridgewater's value.
Yeah,
like, I think he can be an okay starter or like a bridge, which he could be for one of these teams.
For one of the young guys, you mean? Or
yeah, right. Let's say Houston picks up Teddy, and also the 8th overall pick, which would be in my trade. I'll just throw my trade. So it's Teddy Bridgewater, 8th overall, and 2 more firsts.
Okay, makes sense.
So you give Teddy to Houston. They use him for a year behind
Mac Jones or Justin Fields.
Well, they're 8th, right? Like, they're not going to get Wilson at 8. They're not going to get Lawrence. But you can get probably Lance, Fields, Jones, whoever, right? You can do a lot with that pick. So that's my second most likely team is Carolina.
I had the Jets as number 2, just same reasons you had. Sam Darnold, the number 2 overall pick, which is huge. And then probably 1 more first and 1 more second.
And I like Sam Darnold. I actually want to see him go to
a team that
I don't want to see him go to Houston. I want to see him go to
If he goes to Houston,
Chicago.
he's just going to get killed.
I want to see him go to Chicago or San Francisco or a team like that.
I want to see Sam Darnold go to San Francisco.
Yeah, like
That'd be fun.
Even actually New England I wouldn't hate, but I want Darnold to get out of the Jets. Like if Watson wants to go there, fine, but I want Darnold out. So my third team, the Dolphins. The Dolphins, again.
When did they draft? They 3rd?
They're 3rd overall.
Okay.
So they have Tua, who I think needs more than 8 games. I think Tua needs a legit chance. So, but there's all this chatter about not sold on Tua, not sold on Tua. Fine. You trade Tua, because I think he has a ton of value. Right? Like, out of all these guys that we're talking about, other than like maybe the 2nd overall pick, who has more value than Tua? Garoppolo doesn't, Darnold doesn't.
No, for sure. Darnold's probably close. Tua does not have a ton of value right now.
I think he should.
I think he should as well. I don't think he was given much of an opportunity, and he didn't play a lot in college the last couple of years either, so he needs some reps.
So the Dolphins would be trading. They can put together as good of a package as anybody, because Tua is, in my opinion, one of the best pieces that you're going to get in this trade.
Plus, number 3 overall pick.
So I have Tua, 3rd overall, a future first, and then like a mid-round pick. So you're getting Tua, 3rd overall, which is either like you can do so much. Like I don't even know if you keep that pick, but if Houston wants to go with like Pitts, because Pitts' stock is really high, they want to go with Pitts, then do it. Or Sewell, the tackle, go with him. So that's a really interesting slot.
This is a little like draft day, because draft day they traded away
my pick.
Jeremy Tunzel for a couple of firsts.
Laramie
Tunzel, yeah. And now they can say, I want my picks back.
Well, Laramie Tunzel doesn't get traded in the movie, right? That was real life, wasn't it?
Yeah, I know, but that's the comparative, because Miami has draft capital because of Houston.
Speaking of draft capital, if the Jets want to do a trade, they have so many picks. We didn't really talk about the Jets have so many picks. If you look, it's crazy because of mainly because of the Adams trade, right? That's why Seattle is nothing.
Yeah.
So who's your third team?
I had Miami as well. Same deal. I didn't break down all the stuff. I just picked 3rd overall pick, Tua, which I think would be really interesting. And then however else the math works, I thought probably another player.
Yeah. I mainly just picked who could do a play.
The Houston dude, if somebody's a real Bible thumper, they're going to say, "Oh, I know your backup free safety. It doesn't have a lot of capital, but he follows my pastor stuff." Okay. They're riding him.
I don't think he's that terrible, but I don't want Tua to go to Houston because I think he's just going to get pummeled and he's going to get even worse. I do not want to see Tua just get killed. I would rather see...
It's like circa David Carr about 25 years ago.
I would rather see the guy I'm going to talk about next get killed, San Francisco 49ers and Jimmy Garoppolo. I don't hate Garoppolo, but like if I have to watch Tua or Garoppolo get pummeled, I would rather watch Garoppolo get pummeled.
Yeah, listen, lesser of two evils, I agree with you.
So here's the 49ers. The reason why I have them at 4, because they need a quarterback. I don't think Garoppolo's the future.
No.
I think he's, again, Goff. You can use the Goff comparison. It's actually a really good comparison, I think.
He's probably, like 20th overall in terms of your quarterbacks. But
yeah.
But his ceiling, like Goff has a higher ceiling than Garoppolo, I think.
Correct. So cap gets really hard with San Francisco. I don't know if you looked at it, but they have very little. It's not as bad as the Saints, but they have very little cap. So I don't even know if the money works here, but the Niners don't have a lot of cap. I actually don't have a ton of picks. So I have Garoppolo, 12th overall, a future first, and a second.
Okay.
For Watson straight up.
All right. Interesting. I'm not going to lie. I didn't break down any of the trade details after my first three.
Okay.
I listed, New England, Carolina, and San Fran.
I don't know if New England's going to get right. I think Stafford making a statement saying, I don't want to go to New England. Like, Watson probably has a good amount of respect for Stafford and is going to see that. Maybe even shoot him a text, hey, Matt, what's with New England? And Watson is in a better position than Stafford is to go to New England, right? He's a lot younger.
For sure.
He's a better athlete, but I don't know if Watson wants to commit to that. And I want Shanahan to get a guy, right? If it's Watson, then sweet.
All right. Interesting. Who else did you have?
Broncos. That's the easy one, right? Like, Elway has been searching for a quarterback since Peyton. Obviously, I actually like Drew Lock. I think he's pretty entertaining, but I don't think he's the future. So
he's a great backup.
Yeah, he's a good backup.
He's a guy you probably bring in to change the pace a little bit, but I agree if he's not a playoff winning QB.
The downside with Denver is if Watson goes there, you're playing Mahomes twice a year, and you're playing a improving Justin Herbert twice a year.
Yeah,
and actually. Who else is in it? If the Raiders have Carr, right?
Who's on the block too?
Yeah, so, who knows, right? Actually, I'm going to talk about the Raiders with Russell Wilson. But,
okay.
Broncos, they're giving up Lock, 9th overall, future first, and a second, something like that. Do you have anything else to touch on about Watson?
No, super interesting just to see where this ends up.
He's done.
Sorry, Houston. If you're a Texans fan, you're just pissed off.
You're a Houston guy, right? Obviously, we're all Detroit. But if we were in Houston, we would have been Rockets fans and Texans fans and Astros fans. The Astros, everyone hates and they cheat. The Texans suck and don't know what they're doing.
Yeah, traded away all their guys.
And the Rockets lost Harden.
Traded away all their guys.
They're going to lose Oladipo to Miami when he goes to Miami because it's going to happen.
I mean, they had Hakeem Olajuwon, which was cool, but that was a while ago.
Yeah, it was 30 years ago.
Yeah.
So Russell Wilson.
So everybody loves Russ Wilson. I think he's a guy that everybody has cheered for, right? I think he was a third-round pick out of Wisconsin, and he kind of set the model for, okay, you get a young QB on a cheap deal, and you build around him, and that's how you win. And a lot of teams are trying to follow that model. The first half of the season, last season, Russell was an MVP candidate, like a serious MVP candidate.
Yeah, first, third, he was the MVP.
So I didn't break down probably as much detail as you did, but I still think this is for sure 2 first-rounders, a player, and a second-rounder.
Okay, that's pretty close to what I have. So do you have a few teams you think Russell might go to?
Well, he listed his team, so the teams that he listed, I just wrote those down, right?
Yeah.
Dallas, Chicago, New Orleans, Raiders. And it is a little bit funny for Dallas to be listed because, they still have Dak in their weird, franchise player. Yeah.
We would not talk about Dak we would not hear or talk about Dak nearly as much if he played in Jacksonville. Right? All this contract stuff with Dak, I'm sick and tired of it. Part of it is Dak, part of it is Jerry Jones. A lot of it's just Dallas.
Listen, I think Dak is not bad, but I don't. Is he a top 10 quarterback?
He's close.
He's close.
I don't
know
quite.
We hear about him all the time. There's a ton of guys that for next season, there's a ton of guys I'd rather have over Dak.
So the most likely team out of Wilson's 4 teams, right? In a week we might hear, he really wants to go to San Francisco. And San Francisco's going to trade everything to get him. But I have the Raiders as the most likely team. The Raiders would be trading. I have Derek Carr, 2 first-rounders, and a third.
Yeah, actually, I have New Orleans as the most number 1 team. I know they're a strapped cap, so they're going to have to trade some guys. But New Orleans seems to be hot. I just read some things. New Orleans is hot on it. And if I'm Russ, I'm going to want to go to New Orleans because they got a ton of pieces in place.
Out of all the teams that need a quarterback, and the Saints, we don't even know if they need a quarterback, but let's assume Breeze retires. They are by far the most attractive team for Watson or Wilson or Darnold. Yeah,
San Fran's pretty attractive as well, but I'd still pick New Orleans.
I would rather the Saints, yeah. So
although that beast video of Drew Brees pushing the sled, he's obviously not ready to retire. we talked about it, I don't know, probably 3 or 4 shows ago, saying, hey, Breeze is just going to rest his body for a bit and see how he feels. I think he feels pretty well. Feels pretty good. Now, how's his arm? I don't know, right? Against the Tampa Bay, he did not have much left in his arm, but that'll be interesting to see. So I've got New Orleans as the number 1 candidate, and you have
The Raiders.
The Raiders. Okay.
So my second team, I have the Bears.
I also have the Bears as number 2.
I think they're gonna get a quarterback, right? Mm-hmm. They're not gonna start next season with Trubisky or Foles. I don't know if they're gonna be able to get a Watson or Wilson, but they're gonna get a guy.
They'll get a guy.
Let's say they get. So I have them as second to get Wilson here. This is a tough one. I just wrote down 3 firsts, or 2 firsts and Foles, something like that. Or Bears have a couple young players. Fuller is a good young cornerback. Like they might trade some pieces in this to make the cap work with Chicago, but I think they're going to give up at least 2 firsts, maybe 3.
Well, that's when you talk about guys like Khalil Mack, if he's going to be listed as well. Now, I still think Chicago is missing a first rounder from the Khalil Mack trade. Does that sound right? Or
I don't know, but they just trade future.
So they don't have as much capital, but they're willing to trade whatever they can to get away. Actually, I have Dallas next, and it's going to be super complicated. So obviously, it has to include Dak, unless you include a third team like the Raiders. Then you got all sorts of crazy scenarios that I can't wrap my head around. All that stuff, so that just gets confused. So let's put Dallas and the Raiders together in my trade, because I'm not smart enough to figure out all the variables there.
Yeah,
but. Sad for Russell. Sad for the 12th man. I mean, Seattle's such a great.
So what would the Cowboys give up? Let's just take away the other teams, Dallas and Seattle. Like I have Dak, a first and a third, because I think Dak has a good amount of value because he's still pretty young.
That's a good question. So Russell Wilson on his own goes to Dallas. Dallas gives up Dak. I mean, I agree with you, Dallas first and third, but I don't think Dallas can get away with giving that much up for Russell Wilson.
Dallas can get away with.
So, I think Jerry Jones isn't going to want to give away a first plus.
That's why I have Dallas as my 4th team. Russell Wilson listed 4 teams. I have Dallas last because they're a bunch of morons.
Yeah, it's unlikely to happen. Actually, Russell Wilson is a good dude. How can a good dude go to Dallas? Because don't you have to have a criminal record to be on the Cowboys?
I read a stat: 96% of all Cowboys players have a criminal record.
Come on,
that's made up. But
okay,
there's that stretch when
you should put that on Twitter.
It'll go big. Then we might get canceled once the convicts might cancel.
We'll put an E next to our name.
Longest yard. We're gonna all the convicts from longest yard are getting canceled. I have the Saints more likely than Dallas because I think the Saints are better run and would be more likely to figure out how the money works and how players work than Dallas. And with the Saints, they got to give up either like Cam Hayward or like Lattimore or something big. I think like you got to give up a huge player, not just picks.
Yeah, New Orleans has kind of went all in the last couple of years and they've maxed out their salary cap,
like the Rams.
Yeah, very similar. Okay, good analysis, good trade talk. We'll see what happens. Pistons.
You lead.
So, I think part of it is because I've been around so many rebuilds in Detroit in the last 50 years that I like rebuilds. I get excited with young guys that are playing, and I think the Pistons are 9-25.
No idea.
Which is terrible. I think that's the second worst record in the league.
Minnesota, right?
Minnesota has the worst record in the league. And how it works for the lottery is as long as you're in the bottom 3, you have the same chance of drafting Cade Cunningham. So, Pistons are doing exactly what we want to do. And yeah, I'm excited about this. They've got lots of building blocks. They got, I think the only one is like a real plus potential all-star guy, that's Jeremy Grant. Excuse me. But I like the guys they got. They're fun to watch. They're exciting. They try hard. Man, do they play great D all the time? No, they do not play great D. And there's some guys who just cannot shoot the ball into the ocean, but they are so much fun to watch. I'm excited about the future for the Pistons. We'll go into detail a little bit, but just give me a snapshot of where the Pistons are on the rebuild.
I like them a lot. Not as much as you do. I would rather them win. And if that meant getting an 8 seed and getting swept by the Nets or the Sixers, I'm down. I'd rather that, right? But I said in, I think, our first episode, the two of their three first-round picks have to work, is what I said.
Yeah.
And their 3 first-round picks are Killian Hayes, Isaiah Stewart, and Sadiq Bey, in that order. Now, it's odd that the 7th overall pick has been the biggest bust of the year, and the guy they took at 16th, who was a huge reach, and 19, who was not a huge reach. Sadiq Bey was not a reach at 19, but Stewart at 16 was a reach. Those two guys have been not just like fun to watch. They've been great players and will be awesome in 3 years.
You talk about guys who are going to be on your team in 2 years, right? And that's kind of how I look at it. In 2 years, the Pistons will be a playoff team, and who on the current roster will be contributing. And let's just dive into this a little bit. Jeremy Grant, I think they signed him to a 3-year deal.
3 year, $60 million.
So that's going to be interesting because what's going to happen is Grant's trade value is huge high, but he's been good. Good all-around player. He can defend like 3 positions.
In the All-Star break of the NBA, we'll do some midseason awards. Yeah. Jeremy Grant is most improved player by a mile.
For sure.
By a mile.
Yep. So Jeremy Grant, let's assume that they do not trade him. I think he's on a playoff win. So I judge it for the Pistons. They have to win a playoff series. That's when I will be happy. He can be the second best player on a team that wins a playoff series. If he's the best player, you're not going to win a playoff series. But you get a Cade Cunningham or a Jonathan Kumunga or Jalen Suggs, and let's assume those guys end up being like a John Morant kind of real good player, then that's 2 building blocks, potential all-stars to win a playoff series.
So you said Grant can't be the best player on a team wins a playoff series, right?
Correct.
So I'm just going to throw this out there, and I think it makes sense. Jimmy Butler. So Jimmy was... No, hear me out.
Okay.
Jimmy, for a few years, bad locker room, nonsense. It's fake, it's garbage.
Which is super intense.
Super intense. Michael Jordan.
People didn't like Kobe, people didn't like Michael Jordan. Those guys did okay.
So people said Jimmy is not going to lead your team. Like, he's not your best player on the team. That's what was, right? Mm-hmm. And no one wanted to give him the max, but Pat Riley gave him the max, and he led them to the finals.
Yeah.
And had 2 of the best performances in finals history. Game 3 and Game 5.
Okay.
I think Grant, if he makes a leap, and he's a good shooter, like he's a good 3-point shooter, if he can shoot 40 from 3, which isn't crazy, because a lot of guys are shooting 40. Lonzo Ball is shooting like 40% from deep.
Okay. He's wide open.
But
he's not guarded. Yeah, okay.
Still. So, I think Grant can make a step up, and I think they can grind out a playoff series in the first round with a bunch of role players. I really do.
Listen, I would love that. I would love next year if they...
Not next year, dude. Come on.
Okay. Well, next... Okay, let's finish. Let's just talk about some of these guys more. Sadiq Bey, good 3-point shooter. He can post up a little bit. He's a pretty decent rebounder. He's a good defender. Again, he's a little bit unpolished at some stages, but he's awesome. Jeremy Grant, awesome. Christian Stewart, beast. Like every time, like you like listening to other teams' broadcasts.
Christian Stewart?
Oh no, Christian Stewart is
the Tigers.
He's the Tigers' crappy outfielder. Sorry.
Isaiah Stewart.
Isaiah
Stewart is their center, the Pistons' young center.
Yeah.
They got 16th.
NBA body.
So, yeah, we listen to all the different broadcasts we listen to, right? Like, we love the Pistons guys, but we change it up. And every single away broadcaster talks about Isaiah Stewart's NBA-ready body. Yeah. He's just a tank, right? He's like 19. He
just hits people.
And he gets under people's skin. That's another line. He's tough in the post, gets under your skin. And he has drawn so many technical fouls on other guys this year, it's not even funny. It's so crazy that he's doing this as a rookie.
Yeah, now, I'm not 100% sure if he's a starter on a playoff team. You're probably going to disagree with me. But either way, he is a contributor on a playoff team. He's like a Rick Mahorn type guy who can defend,
who can shoot,
who can board, who can shoot a little bit. Again, these guys are going to get better shooters. They're shooting 1,000 jumpers a day during the offseason. Everybody loves Isaiah Stewart. Saban Lee.
I have him down, yeah.
Man, like, people would have given up a bag of pucks for Saban Lee.
Second rounder.
second rounder. His dad, amply NFL running back. So he's athletic. He's fast. He's a good backup point guard. He's going to play in the league for a bunch of years. He beats people off the dribble. Again, his jumper's not very good right now, and if it does not improve much, then he'll only be a 7th or 8th guy. That's okay. He's a contributing guy on a playoff team. It's fun to watch. And then a couple of these other guys that they picked up for nothing. Dennis Smith.
That
awesome.
Trade worked out great.
Ellington they picked up for hardly anything.
Okay, so we'll talk about Ellington and Svi Mikhailuk.
Yes,
so Svi Mikhailuk is a shooter who can't shoot. I'm not sure his percentages, but for sure sub 40.
I didn't even write down Svi's name.
I don't get it. Like, he's a shooter and shoots, the amount of time. Like, he shoots like he's a 43% three-point shooter.
Yep.
And he sucks. And Ellington is maybe the streakiest shooter in the league. He'll go on a hot stretch where he's literally Klay Thompson.
Yeah.
Like, he'll shoot, 9 for 10 in 2 games.
I think the Pistons may get a second-round pick for him. If he gets on a streak for the next 3 or 4 games, then somebody's going to say, hey, the Clippers are going to want another shooter or Philly or something like that, especially if an injury happens. A team like the Nets. I don't know why the Pistons traded Brown to the Nets, because I like Brown.
Yeah, now Brown is like a contributing member who's playing great D and grabbing boards.
Plays free safety. It's fun. You don't like Mason Plumlee that much, but I actually do like Mason Plumlee. He's been pretty good for this team. Just because I like him because he's white? No.
Isaiah Stewart's so much better. It's not even... Isaiah Stewart is half Plumlee's age and is so much better than him.
Listen, I don't think Plumlee is a very good athlete, but I think he's good on this team. He doesn't take too many shots.
Yes, he does.
No, but he's got a pretty good percentage. He gets some dimes. He gets a few boards. He's actually one of the league leaders in dunks.
I know. Yeah, because Jeremy Grant draws 8 guys and just dishes it to him.
Josh Jackson, he's, again, pretty good bench guy. Picked him up for nothing. Does he take too many threes? Yeah, he does take too many threes, but I like it because he's aggressive. He drives to the hoop, and he misses a lot of shots. But he's a great offensive rebounder of his own missed shots.
Jackson.
I'm sure there's a statistic for that.
Like, I think he was 4th overall a few years back from, I think he was Kansas. And he was supposed to be awesome. I think the Suns took him.
I think so.
And imagine if the Suns landed one of those. Like, if they landed that pick, they'd be great. Because they're already sick right now. But whatever. And he was supposed to be awesome, and it just didn't work. And you can tell if you watch Josh Jackson, he's just pissed off at everybody, and he's got a chip on his shoulder.
He's mad.
Like, I've never seen him smile or laugh. Like, he'll hit 4 threes in a game. He's just mad and wants to go and hurt somebody.
Yep.
And I like Jackson a lot. DeLon Wright was good. Like, he started off not very good, and then he got solid, and he was like putting up a bunch of crazy stats where he's getting like 5 boards, 5 points, 5 dimes, 5 steals. Like, he did that a couple times.
Yep.
And he played well. He's injured now, but I liked him. He's a good defensive guy.
You didn't really comment on Dennis Smith?
I like Smith. I think that trade worked out great.
Yeah.
And again, Smith is actually kind of similar to Jackson. Came in the league, high flyer, hasn't worked. Detroit picked him up, and he's perfect for a team like Detroit.
Let's get an opportunity.
Let's talk about Sekou.
Boy, I'm disappointed in Sekou. We were excited about him, and listen, Casey would play him if he deserved the minutes. You disagree?
Okay, no. You want Sekou to improve.
I want Sekou to improve, yes.
How does one improve?
You show up in practice and you work hard. Okay. And then when you're in games, you have a high motor in games. There's times when Sekou's on, I'm like, oh, I didn't even know Sekou was on because he's just floating.
Very rarely. I think Casey needs... This is the year when you're going to try some things out. Okay? And Sekou is something that is not, surefire. That he's not going to be sick.
Yep.
So you got to try him out in games. Not even just garbage time. He needs to play consistently. And I don't think that he's going to improve if he plays 4 minutes a game.
The whole single-digit minutes a game. Get him 18 minutes a game.
Yeah.
Get him something. They have to do that.
I think I'm done with Casey.
Really? Oh, I like Casey. No, I think we need to keep him for another year.
And Plumlee, I'm going to spend him on Plumlee. Plumlee's trash. Like, they need to lose Plumlee, and, like, Okafor's been injured. You can keep him. I'm fine if he backs up Stewart. But I think Plumlee, you got to get rid of.
I think Plumlee you're keeping for next year, and he might either be a trade value guy.
Trade him to Boston.
Actually, Boston really needs Plumlee.
Brooklyn. Like, I think a team like that needs a big.
In Brooklyn, you're probably right. Guy. Yeah, because they traded away Allen.
Yeah, be their bench center.
And I don't like DeAndre Jordan.
He's fine. I don't think he's very good anymore.
Yeah. Blake Griffin, what's the deal? What's going to happen with Blake? I haven't heard anything from the last 2 weeks.
Yeah, like we heard, he's going to get rested. Same with Drummond, actually. I think it might have been the same day when it got announced.
Very close.
And there's been nothing. Like, there's a little bit of Drummond talk. I've heard zero Blake talk, which I think is not good for the Pistons. I think
Listen, we said when this announced that we like Blake and he was a beast, but he has just lost his SI.com did a big article on falling athleticism guys, and they actually compared Blake to Russell Westbrook. Russ has still got most of his athletic ability, so he's still putting up some stats. But Blake just lost it. He can't even shoot. The only way they trade him is if they eat his entire contract. So that it doesn't happen in the NBA. The math doesn't work. So they're just going to have to buy him out, and he'll sign with somebody for veterans minimum.
So Blake, he hasn't played basketball for like 2 weeks, right?
Yeah.
Like, I know you want Blake to get a rest, but teams, like, let's say, take Dallas, because I thought his chance goes to Dallas. Does Dallas want a Blake Griffin who hasn't touched the court in 2.5 weeks by the time they get in 3 weeks? Like, I think that doesn't help him.
I mean, I guess he's working out. He's probably resting his knee or whatever else is busted on him, but I have zero expectation of draft return. I have better expectation of Wayne Ellington and Delonte Wright return than I do for Blake Griffin.
Who?
Okay, what's his name?
DeLon, man.
DeLon Wright.
Delonte Wright.
Yeah.
Is that the Delonte West? Is the guy that Mark Cuban revived?
No, different guy. Okay, maybe I'm not so great with all the first names.
Okay. Do you have anything else to say about the Pistons?
Love them. Fun to watch. Can't wait to watch them get good.
Yeah.
They're not good now. They're just fun to watch.
I would like them to finish with the worst record in the league. So next year when they're awesome, it'll be like this huge jump.
Worst first?
Like the Tigers, right?
Yeah, it'll be... Listen, they will have the second worst record in the league. And they'll be fun to watch. And guess what? Cheap seats. They're going to start selling some tickets so you can go watch them. Now, we can't go the border yet. But
we can't go the border, you're right.
Can't cross the border. But at some point, we'll be able to watch games and they'll be fun to watch.
All right.
Okay. That's it. Episode number 17. Thanks for tuning in. All the different places you can listen to and to support us. Please, if you have any thing you'd like to participate or us to talk about on the show, contact Isaac through our Instagram page. The Truth with Tal and Isaac. Signing out.